Unit 9 of the course, What is Real and Not Real in the Digital and Real Worlds. This week we do a little bit of thinking, a little bit of reflection on digital projects. There's a few websites there that I want you to look at, and there's also an assignment here, the Slatington News Project, which involves looking at some fragments of a newspaper from 1907 from the town of Slatington and writing a short paper on those fragments. Um, let's take a look at this week's note, and what prompts this week's reflection is my trying to get a grasp on what happens to an object when you digitize it and everything. And so our case study here is with these fragments of the newspaper that I have from 1907. And if you kind of break it down into three steps, what you have is first, the experience of working with the actual physical fragments of that newspaper. And then kind of a second stage is working with the images of those fragments of the newspaper. And then third is just working with a PDF version of that newspaper and everything. And so what you have is you have an increasing abstraction, increasing distance from the real object as you go from the object to a digitized fragment to a PDF. And um, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that means for the student experience. What is different for the student when the student is actually working with those physical objects as opposed to when a student is just reading a PDF version and everything. One thing is clear is that for students, when they're actually working with the object itself, they get an immediate sense of history and past. The fact that the fragments are old, brittle, yellow, and smell and everything, that all conveys to them and it immediately allows their sensory receptors or whatever to latch on to the idea that this is old and this is history. Now that's much different from the student just looking at a PDF version on a laptop or a PC screen and everything. They don't really convey any of that kind of sensory perception and everything. And so the whole kind of study of history changes a lot. And so what is real, what is not real? Clearly the fragment is real, but when we're dealing with the PDF version, is that real? Is it not real? Where exactly does that fit? And I'm still trying to get a grasp on that. I guess part of my problem is that I'm not quite sure what exact questions to ask students so that I can make more precise what is going on with students as they use digital materials versus real materials and everything. And while in this case we're dealing with newspaper fragments, I think there's kind of a similar thing going on with any kind of digital materials. And one might say, for example, when you're looking at Seurat's painting of the Grand Jatte in the Chicago Art Institute, the painting is enormous. I don't know if it's 6 feet by 8 feet. And that's a much different experience standing in front of that painting than if you're just looking at a digital depiction of reproduction of that painting on an 8 by 10 inch computer screen and everything. And so trying to get a handle on exactly what digitization does to the reality of an object is something that I've been kind of struggling with, and I'm not really sure that I've really come to any kind of clear and concrete conclusions yet.